Was in der Welt von gestern noch unvereinbar schien, zwei liebevolle Schwestern sind Moskau und Berlin. Und da Berlin mit Moskau das Brot der Freundschaft bricht, weht uns in Berlin wie in Moskau der Wind nicht ins Gesicht.
When it comes to the study of the Cold War, contextualization is usually crystallized around politics and war. From 1945 until 1991, history is described through a series of booms, and bangs, and stoinks, colliding and merging, then sedimenting in our history schoolbooks. Generally studied through the mainstream lenses of realism, this perspective shows reluctance towards the sociological factors which contributed to the period dynamics, focusing more on the military and relative gains of State A versus State B. The exclusion of low politics from the analysis represents a loss for history, and the prevailing consensus is that East German history is riddled with stories of the Stasi, scarce and low-quality domestic produce, bulging blockades, and the unease of uncertainty. After 1945, the East German society was shrouded in a penumbra of mystery and misery. Berlin became a Cold War hotspot, boiling with the febrile ambitions of the two superpowers. Decades of studying the Cold War has proven its shortcomings, controversies, and the progress made in unearthing the obscure of communism. Since the 60s and 70s, schools of thought which were more human-centered reclaimed the narrative. The focus wasn't placed anymore on the violence which marred the international landscape, but more so on the societal trends and the whims of the divergent youth, anticipating the collapse of the communist colossus. It's been 29 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall. In 2019, quintessence of wisdom about life in GDR was found again in a fashion magazine. As it turns out, Western politics did not penetrate the Iron Curtain, but this East German fashion magazine did. This is the story behind Sibyl, the long-forgotten East German fashion magazine that escaped Soviet censorship and brought a dollop of Western life beyond the Berlin Wall. The fashion magazine, Sibyl, was founded in 1956 and named after its first editor-in-chief, Sibyl Boden-Gerstner. Popularly known as the East German Vogue, Sibyl garnered praise and arrested attention through its chromatic vibrancy, showcasing vestiges of forgotten beauty. The 6 yearly issues aimed to inspire timeless femininity as well as empowerment to East German women. Sibyl escaped Soviet censorship because it was apolitical and conformed to the values of the GDR, at least until the late 60s. The readership was bi-monthly bestowed 40 pages filled with fashion tips, travel stories, portraits of artists, and other culture-related articles. At the zenith of its popularity, the magazine's circulation hit 200,000 copies, contouring the image of the East German woman at the time, as well as reflecting the social conditions in the country. Many East Germans idolized everything that came from the West, from music and literature to fashion and films, but impeded by the regime, they had nurtured their dreams through Sibyl. The clothing worn by the models could not be bought by the East German women, but could be handmade thanks to the patterns provided by the magazine. Through those sewing patterns, Sibylians could reproduce their Western ideals, but dodge around the despised Western consumerism. Due to its market popularity and freedom in advertising, the magazine became a breeding nest for photographers. Ute Machler, who spent almost 20 years taking pictures for the magazine, claims that in Sibyl, the photographers were not fashion photographers, but photojournalists. In the GDR, all East German media was subjected to the analytical scrutiny of party leaders. If the photos reflected government ideology, then censorship was not necessary. Prominent photographers turned to outlets like fashion magazines to express themselves honestly. They also used photos to send coded messages. Everything had a double meaning to East Germans.
Toll wie die Lolo, schick wie die kleine Jane. Schön wie die Aphrodite einst in Athen. Alles zusammen, das nenn ich ideal. So und nicht anders ist Lady Carnival.
The 60s were a game changer for Sibyl. Models started being pictured outdoors more often, whether strolling down a Berlin street or nursing a drink in a beer salon. Fashion became acclimatized and imbued with East German flair. The most emblematic photoshoots took place on Alexanderplatz, the former epicenter of socialist life. The settings weren't only limited to the national borders. Following the initiative of the famous Christian Dior models in Moscow in 1959, Sibyl fostered Eastern Bloc solidarity in fashion, mounting modeling campaigns in Moscow, the Eastern Bloc fashion metropolis, and other communist capitals, such as
Dabei weiß ich, das ist alles nur Spiel. Rote Rosen, roter Wein, ein paar Tage glücklich sein, nur mit dir, ganz allein.
Sibyl was the only communist fashion magazine which had successfully emulated Western fads in the Eastern European hemisphere. Communist surveillance of national publications had overlooked Sibyl, underestimating the effects it might have on the population. How could a frivolously feminine magazine undermine the ideological status quo of the country or subject it to its youthful whims? By the mid-60s, the shadow of censorship loomed over Sibyl. The governing Socialist Unity Party of Germany employed enemy ideology as a scapegoat for the country's weak economic performance. This put an end to the relaxed approach towards the magazine, which was seen as the mouthpiece of the country's rebellious youth. As the censorship crept in, propaganda opportunists seized their chance to mobilize female workers. Magazine issues of the 70s, women were presented in worker-style attires. This new trend symbolized a healthy economy. Women were not only powerful through their aesthetic touch, but also through their fruitful industrial input. Contrary to the Western woman, who was a dutiful housewife, the Eastern woman was a man's equal, a force to be reckoned with. This movement in fashion led to the empowerment of East German women in the workforce. The easygoing mood of the magazine shifted in the 70s, reflecting East Germany's disappointment in its failure to reach economic success. The magazine changed its strategy, no longer focusing on fashion alone, but featured women work culture more often. Women became an important driving force in the state economy. Practical fashion was heralded as a new beginning, serving the interest of the state and of the people. Naturally, the East German 70s were not cut off from the contemporary Western fads. Hippie fashion had reached its zenith. instilling blissful debonair, lazy lush, and natural beauty. In the early 1980s, the GDR's economic and political stagnation led to a time of social change. The years were auspicious for Sibyl, becoming the It magazine of the time. The aesthetics changed as models emulated the cool and reserved poses adopted by international models. The photographic artistry became less conventional. The coolness gradually dissipated as the influence from the various pop cultures surged. The magazine issues from 1989 are important witnesses of the major upheaval in Germany. But in the artistic realm of Sibyl, the wall between the East and West had caved in long before 1989. After the German reunification, a West German company bought Sibyl, which secured the magazine's existence for a while without, however, building on the success it once had in East Germany. The magazine finally folded for financial reasons in early 1995.